Okay, let's dive into this. If you've been anywhere near the One Piece conversation lately, you absolutely know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It's been like a total earthquake. All this information dropping about God Valley, an event people have theorized about for years.
Decades, almost. And the scale of it, the names involved, it's just huge.
It really is. And the sources you sent over for this deep dive, you know, the reaction videos, Skull Reacts, Weeb Club, Madrugada Nerd, OUVO, OUU, KTV, Kijin, they really capture that shock, don't they? You can practically feel people processing this massive history dump.
Absolutely, it's raw. You see people just kind of grappling with what it all means.
Exactly. And you wanted us to sort of cut through the noise and pull out the really crucial bits from these reactions about God Valley, like who was actually there, what was this horrible game, and maybe most importantly, how does it all tie into Bartholomew Kuma's story, which is just unbelievably tragic.
His backstory is central to understanding it all. So our mission here is basically to walk you through what these sources are showing us about this huge moment.
Get you the key details fast, understand why it's such a big deal historically and, you know, for what's happening right now in the story.
Exactly.
So where do we even start? Because the reactions make it clear to really get God Valley, you have to go back further to Kuma's origins, and wow, it's rough.
It really is. What we learn is that Kuma, he was born into this specific group, the Buccaneers, in the Sorbet Kingdom.
Okay.
But tragically, the world government finds out about his family's lineage. And Kuma's only 4 years old at this point.
4? Just a little kid.
Yeah, and they're immediately captured, the whole family. Taken to Marie-Joise, enslaved by the Celestial Dragons.
Ugh, the world nobles. And the sources, they really stress how brutal it was, right? What he went through as a child slave.
Oh, absolutely. Extreme suffering from day one, basically. But there was one small moment. Kuma's father, in the middle of all that darkness, tells him about Nika.
Nika, the sun god, that legend of freedom.
Exactly. Just a tiny sliver of hope.
Which then gets just violently stamped out. The reactions really zeroed in on this detail from the sources. Kuma's dad is shot, killed, right there in front of him by a celestial dragon, just like that.
It shows their casual cruelty, their absolute power. It's horrifying. And it sets up this stark contrast, you know, that tiny bit of hope versus the overwhelming brutality.
Really frames Kuma's whole ideology later on. So, okay, this then leads us to God Valley Island, and it wasn't just some random place.
No, the sources are chillingly clear that the Celestial Dragons specifically picked it for this event.
This human hunt, or clearing out, they called it.
Yeah. Basically, for 3 weeks, everyone on the island, the natives, the slaves, like 100,000 people total, they were they're game to be hunted.
100,000 people. And some sources mention that in previous hunts like this, nobody survived.
0 survivors. That was the track record. It's just,
And the ones doing the hunting, the Holy Knights, God's Knights.
Their elite guard. Sources specifically called out Figurlin Garling. Showed him, like, actively enjoying it, competing for points, trophies.
Points? For hunting people, it's sick. It shows just how depraved they are.
And it gets worse. The sources pointed out how they'd even give the slaves false hope, pretend escape was possible, just to make the sport better for themselves.
That level of sadism is hard to even process. Okay, so this is supposed to be secret, this atrocity. How does word even get out?
Right, well, the reactions explained it came from Ginny, another slave on the island. She somehow managed to leak info to the outside world.
Wow. What did she leak?
Not just about the hunt itself, but about the twisted prizes the Celestial Dragons put right in the middle of the island. 2 devil fruits, super powerful ones.
The devil fruits, okay. Central to everything in this world, so which ones?
Well, the sources confirmed one was a mythical zone, let you turn into an azure dragon, which, you know, we now realize was Kaido's fruit.
Kaido's fruit, okay. And the other?
The pawpaw fruit. Kuma's fruit.
Yeah.
The one that lets you repel anything. Yourself, other people. Send them flying to other islands.
Right, the ultimate escape tool, almost. So these fruits, that's the bait. That's what turns this hidden horror show into a global event.
Exactly. Suddenly there's something incredibly valuable there, and it attracts the biggest names in the world.
And boy, did they show up. Ivankov, who was there, apparently noted how pirate ships just surrounded the island, completely sealed it off, nobody getting in or out easily.
Yeah, trapping everyone inside. The slaves, the hunters, and now all these pirates.
And look who arrived. The sources confirm this lineup. It's insane. Rox D. Zebek and his crew. We're talking Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Shiki, Captain John, Stussy, Gloriosa. all in their prime.
Unbelievable firepower all in one place. And that's not all.
No. Then, on the other side of the island, the Roger pirates show up. A young Roger, some reactions said he looked kind of like Ace, which is interesting.
Yeah, I saw that too. And his right hand, Gabon. Sources mentioned how strong he was, potentially linked to different groups.
So you've got this absolute powder keg. Pirates fighting pirates. The reactions talked about Rock's crew already fighting each other over the fruits. Whitebeard versus Rocks, Shekis versus Whitebeard, Big Mom versus Kaido.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
Plus, they're fighting the Navy and the Holy Knights who are there for the game. And the hunt itself is still technically happening underneath it all.
The Navy's completely overwhelmed. But then Garp arrives, and the sources paint him as this sort of beacon of hope for the trapped people, even though his first thought was finding Roger.
Yeah, the island basically became ground zero for, well, for everything that came next in the world.
Okay, let's zoom back in. Amidst all that, you've got Kuma, Ivankov, and their little group. What's their plan?
Their plan is desperate. Get one of those devil fruits. It's their only shot at getting off the island, escaping the game.
And this is the moment, right? Kuma and the pawpaw fruit.
This is it. Sources laid out the sequence. Big Mom swoops in, grabs the dragon fruit.
Kaido's future fruit, yeah.
And then immediately goes for the other one, the pawpaw fruit, which Kuma's group is near.
So Ivankov sees this, tells Kuma, eat it now.
Exactly, and Kuma does, right there, in the middle of God Valley.
Yeah.
Gains his power.
And then, the confrontation. The sources highlighted this specific chilling moment. Kuma comes face to face with Saint Saturn.
Yeah, one of the Gorosei, the top world government leaders we see today. And Saturn's words, quoted in the sources, they're brutal. He tells Kuma basically, you're a buccaneer. Your only options are slavery or death. History decided.
Ugh. Just flat out stated. And Kuma's response, echoing his father's hope.
It's powerful. He challenges that idea, inherited status, fate. He says if he has power, he'll use it like Nika to save people, as many as he can.
Like Nika. And Saturn's reply,
just cold. That's why your kind disappears. Basically confirming they actively erase people like him, people who represent freedom or challenge the order.
Wow, and this intense exchange is happening while Rox and Roger are fighting, while the island is tearing itself apart.
Exactly. And then, poof, the whole incident gets buried, wiped from the official records, except for this simplified story about Garp being the hero.
But Kuma makes it out. He survives. The sources say he, Ivankov, and Jenny somehow escape God Valley and end up back in the Sorbet Kingdom.
Yes. And the first thing Kuma does, uses his new power. Ivankov and Ginny apparently talked about how he saved over 500 people right then and there in the aftermath, just repelling them away from the dang net.
500 lives, it's incredible. And Ivankov's observation about his hands.
Yeah, calling them the heroes of liberation, because that's literally what they did. They gave people freedom, sent them away from that hell.
Such a powerful image. So Kuma then lives with Ginny. She was also enslaved from age 4, right? And she's a bit older.
Yeah, 4 years older. Sources describe them bonding over that shared trauma. Crying together about it, but also finding some happiness. Kuma using his powers to heal kids' pain. Little moments like that.
A fragile kind of peace, sounds like.
Very fragile. Eventually, Ivankov leaves, seeking freedom out on the seas. Kuma and Ginny stay. And the sources kind of touched on how history gets twisted too. Mentioned the reporter Morgan's writing biased stories later, implying that's how the truth of God Valley got buried by those in charge.
Right, the winners or the powerful write the history.
Exactly.
And this just makes everything happening now hit so much harder. The sources made that connection crystal clear. Seeing Saturn now, knowing he was there, doing that.
Yeah. Or understanding Kuma's bond with Bonnie, who the sources explicitly state is Ginny's daughter. It recontextualizes everything about Kuma's later life.
His sacrifices, that whole tragic path he took, his current state, it all makes so much more sense, and it's just so much more poignant knowing these origins, knowing the ideals he fought for were forged in that absolute nightmare.
Definitely. And these reactions, they also buzzed about other connections, didn't they? Like other Holy Knights appearing, maybe Shank's twin, hints about Loki's key in Elbaf, Nika showing up in old texts.
Yeah, and Gabon maybe being around still, connecting Roger's era to today. It feels like all these threads from that time are converging now.
It really shows how deep the roots of the current conflict go, right back to God Valley and the figures involved there.
So this deep dive, pulling from all those reactions, it really clarifies things. God Valley wasn't just a battle, it was a massacre. Orchestrated by the Celestial Dragons, disguised as a game.
Yep. And it drew the world's strongest players because of the messed up stakes and those devil fruit prizes.
And right at the heart of it is Kuma's story. From being a child slave, enduring unimaginable horror to gaining the power to liberate others, all defined by that one event.
Hands of liberation, born from absolute oppression. And the fact that this history was deliberately erased tells you so much about how power works in this world.
Understanding this past, it really does illuminate the present, doesn't it? It changes how you see these characters, these fights you're following.
Absolutely. It adds so much weight.
It really does. And thinking about God Valley, about how thoroughly the world government buried it, it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What else are they hiding? What other horrors are buried in their version of history?
That's the big question, isn't it? And if Nika, this symbol of liberation, is meant to disrupt that established order, you have to wonder if we're building towards something similar now.
Right. And what part might someone like Kuma, whose power is literally about liberation, whose life was shaped by resisting that ultimate tyranny, what part might he still play in whatever comes next?
A lot to chew on there.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sending those sources over. They really opened up a crucial, horrifying, but incredibly important piece of the puzzle.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.